This is the XNC Podcast, your Xbox newscast featuring Colteastwood, hosting industry interviews and gaming talk live on YouTube every Monday night at 5 p.m. on the West Coast, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. For all of you listening around the world, XNC Podcast is available on demand on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. Welcome to the show. Join the chat, hit the like button, and let's get into this week's topics with the XNC Podcast live. Welcome to episode 27. I'm Colteastwood, and this is the XNC Podcast. And I've got two great people here with me. One, you probably don't see him a lot, but you've heard him throughout the years. I want to welcome to the show, from IGN Australia, Luke Riley, the expert in racing games.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. So we were talking before the show about your history on IGN and what you've done. We'll get into that in a minute, but I also have to welcome back a good friend of mine from Game On Daily, the aggregate news website, your go-to for everything gaming for the week. Gaz, how are you?
I'm feeling good. It's 1 a.m. and I'm loving it. And it's an honor to meet Luke, whose amazing review I had the pleasure of viewing on Forza Horizon, but I'm sure we'll get into it. Nice to meet you, Luke. Apologies
Likewise.
for everything you're about to endure. Sorry.
Hey, you're the one up at 1 a.m. I think Colt's done a pretty fantastic job of assembling three people in the most difficult time zones to make work.
Yeah, it is crazy. You know, for me, it's 5 p.m. here on the West Coast, so that's, hey, I have to worry about being hungry for dinner time. Try that out. But no, we'll make it. This is a real honor because I was just telling Luke before the show, I don't know how long you've been doing this, but I feel like since I've been really digging into game reviews, because I watch these game reviews before I go buy a game, that I've been seeing and hearing his voice for so long when I'm checking out games like Dirt and Burnout and the Forza series and everything. So tell the audience, Luke, what is this egg you've cracked from? What's the history of you and your career?
Well, I have been in games media for, nearly 20 years now, I guess. I got straight into it after I graduated from uni. I did some journalism at uni, and it was all really boring. But then I thought, specialty journalism, I could do that. What could I do? Video games, motoring. Video games was the first one that let me in, and that was it. And then I worked in print in Australia for quite a few years. I was the editor of Official PlayStation magazine for 4 or 5 years or so, and then I joined IGN 10 years ago this year. So
okay,
oh wow,
that's what's been going on. And I've been fascinated with racing games since I was 5 years old, since I was a tiny baby, basically. And because there was no one else, I guess, at IGN with the same level of enthusiasm for racing games, it was a beat that I was able to carve out for myself. And now I kind of own that corner of the conversation there. And I feel like it's a nice place to be. I have a lot of people respond to my thoughts and musings and ravings on racing games.
Because the terminology you use, I feel like when you're talking right now that we're getting an inside special preview of racing coverage. I gotta ask, do you have you have to have done some racing in real life, on out there? You've done something, right? Or maybe run from the cops when you're in high school.
I've done plenty of aggressive driving and I've had a lot of fantastic opportunities over the years to do kind of motoring themed events. A lot of developers and publishers really love to put press into cars and feel how much it is like a video game, and that kind of stuff it's become a little played out, but it's always a kind of a blast. Like,
have they put you in a car then because of your time at IGN? Like, what have you been in? What have they sat you down in and strapped you into?
Oh, man, I could tell you the list. And I've gone through the list with my kids recently, actually. Just blowing their minds because they haven't really paid attention to what I do for a lot of years. But then I kind of feel like I'll be just bragging about the cars I've driven. But I've driven a lot of pretty fabulous cars, been tacked onto motoring events and such over the years on some pretty cool race tracks.
Yeah, give us like a couple like the top like memorable besides the AMD Pacer or AMG Pacer.
I've driven a McLaren 720S through England. I've driven a Lamborghini Aventador down in Victoria. I've
what about the
Hoons? Ferrari 360 Medina.
The Australians and your Hoons or Hoonigans.
I've driven the last HSV Maloo that they made.
Oh yeah.
That was a lot of fun actually. Down in Victoria.
Yeah, I mean, Gaz here is like he's a petrol head for sure. We've talked about cars quite a bit, and Gaz, like, how's your love affair with cars taking you into what's going on this week?
Well, to be honest, my love affair of cars meant that I had to break up with my girlfriend. It's a really sad story.
Oh,
it's really sad for her because the car was sick. But no, my taste in cars is I love, and people are gonna think I'm such a, but I love stanced cars. You might hate me for this, Luke, but I like the old BMW with the BBSs slammed. I was part of the Supra. The Mark IV Supra is probably one of my all-time favorites. The 2JZ GT engine is bulletproof. That engine is legendary. Yeah. And right now I'm double-minded about what my next car will be. But it's a choice. Either get another nice car and stay single for another 10 years or finally settle down and find someone unfortunate to love me, which is proving difficult. But whoa, it's
I'm gonna do that in a minute, but I double clicked. I double clicked like a crazy man. Let's try that again. But we will show that in a second. I was just like my father-in-law for a second there. I like double clicked, a triple click on a but go ahead, Kaz.
Well, yeah, no, honestly, this is a good time to have Luke. Great timing. That review that Luke did. Honestly, before I churned out my video, I actually watched yours, and I thought it was so well done. I was like, IGN? Sorry, there's a perception with that. Let's be honest, man. It's like IGN, But I was like, IGN? Who's this Luke Riley guy? And then it turned out, and I'm not bullshitting you. That is, Colt told me you're coming on. I was like, damn. I literally watched this review. It was so good. It's the only review watched from start to finish in terms of video form. So comprehensive. And I'm not just saying that. It was really good.
Well, there's a thing. Like, if you're a racing game fan, like, that you've got to check out IGN's game review because Luke does almost all of them. And I was surprised you didn't do the preview, I think, a month ago. I think somebody else did the preview. Is that correct? Or did you do the preview?
I did a preview. There may have been one prior to that, perhaps. Maybe. I'm not sure.
I mean, they did one coverage of Forza Horizon 5, and it wasn't you. I'm like, as soon as I didn't hear your voice, I was like, come on! Like, this is what I need to hear.
I'm a new convert, and I loved it. Such a good video. I did one and put mine to shame because I watched yours and like, you know what, he's done it. Let me do something a little clever with some music. But yours was the definitive review for that game for me.
Wow. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, it was very good. Yeah, very good, very good. So I want to talk about, actually, Gaz, you kind of got us started on this. Like you said, you might have like a predisposition about certain game reviews or certain sites. And I want to talk to you, Luke, about being someone who does a lot of prominent game reviews. Can you kind of give us an idea of what that's like when you write down your review and you put it out? You have to deal with the way that the public and the gaming community is going to deal with it. Like, how has that been going over the past several years?
Well, I mean, I can only speak from my perspective, obviously. But I think I have a really good relationship with a lot of the people that watch my stuff on IGN.
Yep.
A lot of the there's a huge amount of positivity around the comments, and I can't really put my finger on why that is. I think people who like racing games can be very tribal because people who like certain types of cars are very tribal. Like it's like sport, right? Tribalism is rife in motoring as it is in sport and in video games. But I've always only ever approached looking at racing games from a very earnest perspective, from a genuine perspective. I love racing games, and I have a huge amount of respect for the people who make them. And I love hearing about how they get made, and like it's a real fascination of mine. So that's how I come at it, and the response is always really good. And so I have no complaints about the way that I'm perceived or the feedback that I get. And if people I've never asked people to agree with me. When I tell you what I think, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just telling you what I think. You know what I mean? That's really where I'm at with it. So yeah, the feedback that I get is always really great. I have no complaints.
Yeah, that's pretty fair, because when you think about, you're reviewing car games, so it's not so decisive. But this past week you had to review an Xbox exclusive, and then have you kind of seen there's a little bit of a battle between, this is a really highly rated game. You guys gave it a 10, right?
True.
And we're going to get into more of that, but like there is a certain part of the community is like, it's just a racing game. You kind of get that pushback, right?
I have. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I have certainly seen that, but that's something that I've seen for a decade. I've sort of seen that. Yeah. The way that people do malign that genre, it's like a genre game, but people are a little bit like that about fighting games and other kind of genres like that were massive and they've just faded slightly. Like racing games were enormous. Look back at Gran Turismo on PlayStation 1. What was the highest selling PlayStation 1 game in history? Gran Turismo 1. It was the biggest thing ever. It's when you look at like the whole reason Forza exists is because Gran Turismo 1 and Gran Turismo 2 and 3 were just so big. They were system sellers. Yeah. So, but racing games have faded from the limelight slightly, and people are dismissive of them. But I don't really get hung up on that kind of thing, to be honest.
Do you know why they're dismissive? Why do you think they're dismissive of the notion like a game like Forza Horizon could be a Game of the Year contender because it's a racer? Why is there that stigma, if you want to call it that?
I think it's an excellent question. And I don't know that I know the precise answer to it. But I just think
no
it's
idea.
Yeah, there's certainly a bit of ignorance. But I think maybe there's also kind of maybe a little arrogance attached as well. It's like how could this game be considered as a Game of the Year? It's just cars. It's just driving around. It's like, well, you can level that argument in any game. It's like, it's walking around with swords.
Well, I mean, there's two things missing, Luke and Gaz. There's like two things missing from a racing game. They're kind of intertwined, but you don't have like a central character. You really don't have a central character in Forza Horizon 5, but it doesn't have a story and it doesn't have a character that follows through. And people feel like that's the paint by numbers example of a game. It looks great, it feels great, it has a great story, it has a great memorable character, and you're some guy in glitter, hot shorts or hot pants and a tank top doing dabbing while you win races. And of course you're right, Luke. There's an arrogance there that those games don't deserve to be nominated, let alone win. And we will get into that. I got to give a shout out to Kingfish737 with a $5 super chat. He says, Gaz is here. Gaz brings the sauce. Cole, love every show. Luke, Gaz has this sauce logo. He does these really fiery passionate videos about
Don't
news
watch it.
that break.
Don't
so
watch
yeah,
it.
don't watch
If you
it
work
around
at
your kids.
IGN, don't watch it. It's a parody. It's a parody of the gaming industry and discourse. And there's one episode your friends at IGN just got lasered, but it was fun. It's just, you one day you can make fun at me, throw feces at me. I will bask in it. The whole idea is very graphic, but it's
sometimes. My favorite content is where he's just kind of getting fired up with the music and talking about how people are trying to accept what's going on in the industry because things are changing. But hey, Danny Passion Official with the $2 super chat says, Colt, your mic volume is a bit higher than the rest. Let me see if I can turn that down.
I've increased mine, by the way.
Yeah, let's see. That means we'll bring this down about right here. And hey, look, I didn't mess anything up. Hey, before we get into this, I'm going to kind of reset for the audience here. This is the XNC podcast. I'm here with IGN Australia's Luke Riley. He's the voice you'll hear on most every car game review. And he's been working there for quite a while. And I'm also here with Game On Daily's Gaz. And we're talking about, can I give you a heads up what the show's going to talk about? We're going to talk about some of the Forza Horizon 5 reception. We'll talk a little bit about what's going on with Sega and Xbox. This is more than we thought. And PC games on Xbox and Game of the Year and a couple other things. Also, I don't normally do something like this, but somebody reminded me. I got the new controller. How do I point to this in a mirrored? Over here, I've got the new Forza Horizon 5 controller, and it has a code for a car, an emote, and like a clothing item. Not a big deal, but we're going to put the code in the chat just because you guys are here watching the show. We'll pick a winner for that in a little bit. But let me do something. This is only a minute long. I'm going to play this promo that they did in Australia. You know about this, Luke? This is where they dropped this.
Drop the car, yeah.
Drop the car. I'm going to play this really quick. I think I have the volume off. Let's see. I will get this out of the way. I think I can go like this and like this. I'm so great at this stuff. Look at me. I'm so amazing. Come on, let's get it right. There we go. Come on. Add to the stream. And there it is. All right. That's the magic behind the scenes. This is the... Let's see. How do you get this sucker to play?
Press the play button.
I am really working on it. We will... You know what? That was awesome.
I'll do some auto-tune while you figure it out. Welcome to XNC. Sort it out, Colt.
Yeah, that was just ridiculous. I actually grabbed I tried to trim the clip, but we will get it right here, and we will like this.
Oh wow!
And
Still trying
here
to
it
make
goes. Yeah, I got it. I had a different one. I had a backup. So I'm muting the music because I don't know who the music belongs to, but I saw this right before the show went up, and I hope that it streams well. But this is really cool. It might be a little bit choppy here, but...
I thought that was actually in Forza at the start, but now I can't just tell the difference between real life and Forza.
Yeah, I was watching this, and I was like gasping when I was watching this.
What they did? They just parachuted
Oh, what is this thing they dropped? It's one of these Rangers or Polaris Ranger.
Yeah.
Or is that what they call them? Yeah. These things are pretty expensive for what they are. This guy is
guy just like, wait, what? Oh, like, that's a very intricate way to get into the vehicle. He's trying to do a Ken Block kind of.
Yeah, he doesn't try to jump right into it, but he lands right up to it.
I would have rated him if he went straight in.
Imagine if he went in. Dukes of Hazzard style. Just
like feet first.
Yeah.
Be amazing.
It'd be bad if he went head first. Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, Jose Linares says, holy crap, this real. Yeah, this is a stunt they pulled in Australia over in Victoria. So, yeah, I just think this is cool, but we'll let this play for a second here. I love driving these.
That car is firing. Isn't that the stuff in Far Cry that just kills people?
Yeah, it's like that poison in Far Cry 6.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. So,
like the marketing material. I was going to say, Luke, I thought Australia Straya, the Forza Horizon game, there was my favorite. Something about Australia, the setting was the one.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's changed still. I love Mexico, but what do you think? Do you think I have a bias for Australia a little bit?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, sentimentally, that's a massive game for me. That'll be a favorite game of mine forever. That one, that felt plucked from my brain as a child. Like I've talked about this. I know I've talked about this on IGN at length. So if anybody's sort of hearing this for the second or third time again, apologies. But yeah, like when you're a kid and you kind of love cars and you grow up around cars and you think to yourself, wouldn't it be great if there was a racing game that had all these things, had all these cars in particular that are around me all the time.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of jealous of the US experience and certainly the UK experience. UK's got such a thriving racing game scene, and the US is obviously a huge market, and tons of racing games get created there, and a huge motoring scene over there as well. And all the games I played reflected those scenes, but never reflected ours. And it's a lot to ask for such a small territory to ever have a game of that caliber arrive, and then suddenly it did. And so that game was really special.
Game.
Yeah, it's
really,
most
really
everybody's favorite Horizon. So did you feel like when you got into Australia in the game, like they nailed the feel and look of some of the locations?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of what it's what they've done with each successive game. And it's that what they want to hear back from the people is that, yes, they got the street signs right. Yes, you got the road markings exactly right. Yes,
that's so important.
Like, yes, the bins look exactly right, because it's all those tiny little things that if they get those things wrong, you'll play it and you're like, it's kind of fine, but it doesn't really feel authentic. If you don't nail those tiny details, those little granular details, and that's one of the really admirable things about the way Playground works is that they really drill down on those tiny granular details, and they build this huge really detailed picture of authenticity that makes it kind of believable and makes you feel like you've really traveled to a new place. So like when I drive around Mexico, it'd be certainly like disingenuous of me to claim that Mexico, it's so authentic and everything feels real, because I've never been there. I've never been there. You know what I mean? But I can. Right. I've driven around the UK, and I've driven around the Cotswolds area, for instance, when I went over there to visit the studio for our reveal of the game for Horizon 4. And I've obviously driven around Australia naturally. So when I play those games, I can look at the parts of those games and say, yeah, this does feel really right. And then I can trust in the process that I'm assuming Mexico is just like built to that like nth degree of detail also, So and I assume any Mexican players of Forza will be the first ones to say I don't know, this kind of doesn't feel right, or these what's this sign, or what's this kind of road marking, this doesn't feel right. And I'm not hearing that at the moment. So
I don't know. I'm not slow enough driver to actually see the signs. I just blast past them and knock them off out of the concrete. I got to ask, Luke, what's I don't care how old or how lame some people may think it, but what is your absolute favorite racing game that just your favorite overall?
Well, gosh, I mean, that's a really tricky question.
I know you play almost all of them. I mean, if you reviewed almost every one of them. So which one is certainly really does it for you?
I mean, the game that I can always go back to is Horizon 3. Like, it's such a special game to me. But in terms of like some really important racing / driving games to me, like the first Gran Turismo was enormous. Mm-hmm. And the first Driver, for instance, is a really big one for me as well.
Yes, Driver was so great.
Wow.
When you, Gaz, you also played Gran Turismo on the PlayStation, right? Back in the day.
Yeah.
Is it weird that my memory of that game when I played it looked like the real thing back then?
Yeah, it's so funny. If you look at it now, you're like, what was I thinking?
You look at it now, it's like real. Made out of 9 pixels. But do you have that same memory, Luke, when you...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I remember there was sort of they kind of fake reflections off the paint. And I remember when you played Driver 1, that
Oh yeah.
Chevelle or that Nova or whatever it was, right? Chevy Nova or whatever it was. It didn't really have a reflective paint. It took a little while for that stuff to come up. But let me grab a couple supers. We're going to get into these topics. So we got welcome to the channel. We got a new channel member, Jordy from Xbox Era. Talked to him quite a bit on social media and on YouTube. He's amazing. Welcome to the show. He's got the Joanna Dark badge that I drew, so he can show that. Another member is Kung Fu Hot Dog. He says, Colt, how long did it take you to edit the 85 plus clips used in your Forza Horizon 5 review? It was rad. I like to use the word rad. He goes, I think Forza Horizon 6 will be set in Japan and on Unreal Engine 5. Gaz, stay single, dude. Okay, he packed that one pretty good. But
That'll be hard. Don't worry.
I did notice that somebody else edited your Forza Horizon review, Luke. So that meant that you wrote everything after you collaborated all your time, and then you sat down and did the voiceover work, and you handed off to a person who puts the clips together. Like, how does that work? Like, do you record like 100 clips or 50 clips and give them to, the next person?
In terms of our process, process here in Australia is kind of, it's really just the pair of us. It's myself and Tristan Ogilvie, who I've worked with over various jobs. I used to work with in magazines. Now we work at IGN together. So it's very collaborative. I write the reviews and I curate the clips, and then he puts it all together. So all the reviews that you see from me and IGN, that will have been assembled by Tristan. And we have
very nice.
Yeah, we have this very symbiotic relationship at this point where I don't even need to give him. I don't even need time code videos or any direction whatsoever. Beyond just naming the videos in a really logical way, Tristan just reaches into my brain and assembles the videos as you see them. So obviously he's a massive part of that video review product that we end up with at the end of the day.
Oh, heck yeah. I mean, you guys got 1 million views on that review. My review took me about 6 or 7 hours probably of production. And I threw all of them in and started organizing them. And Gas put out a review. It took a long time. And that would be nice to kind of have a co-partner to do some of the heavy lifting. Some of that stuff can take a long time, but
totally, yeah.
And work at IGN,
it's tricky.
And go to the Cotswolds. Come on, Carl. We're in the company of Luke Riley of IGN, man. Us peasants.
Yeah. But that's really cool. But thanks for that comment there, Kung Fu Hot Dog. Let's see. We got Tunces the cat says meow for $5 super chat. I love that. That's great. I mean, we welcome everybody here, whether you're human or you're feline, but thank you for stopping by the show. And Hargi Chani with a $5 super chat says, Gaz, bring the sauce. And Luke,
Always.
Since you are reviewing racing games, do you think they count in the Game of the Year discussion? You kind of covered this. He asked this question about 10 minutes ago. Let's just ask it straight up. And do they deserve to be nominated for Game of the Year, in your opinion?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I disagree.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just playing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it. Sorry, not to derail. Sorry. I think it doesn't feel like this long ago now, but it's been 3 years since Horizon 4 came out. And Horizon 4 kind of ended up in the same place. It came out, the response was enormous, the fan response was enormous. It reviewed exceptionally well. It was one of the highest rated games of the year, but it just never factored into the big, it factored into certainly genre awards and platform awards. But, at the end of the day, when you look at the Game Awards, it's still kind of marooned in this section where it's competing with FIFA. It's not even a conversation. It's
so
not
annoying.
But it's one of the highest. It's like the highest rated Xbox exclusive at the time. Yeah, and they still do. I'm not sure. Yeah. So I totally think they should factor in.
Yeah, and we're going to get into it later on in the show about some of the games that have come out, and we'll kind of find out, Luke, what you've played throughout the year when we get into that. But there's a bigger discussion when you talk about, Luke can say, in my opinion, it should be nominated Game of the Year. Forza Horizon should. But there's more to talk about. We'll get into that in a minute. Shout out to Underachiever, a really good friend of mine with the $5 super chat. He says, update, and he's making fun of me for my title. I'll I'll get him later. He's a great guy. And Uriel Delgado with the $5 says, seeing as how people get upset when GT7 is compared to Forza Horizon 5, GT7 is coming in about a year. What's going to happen when Forza Motorsport 8 readies up for release? Okay, well, let me ask you a more specific question. What do you expect to be different about Motorsport 8 than what we've seen before for Forza Motorsport, Luke?
I think a huge part of it will be the multiplayer component. That would be my suspicion. It's what I think they would certainly prioritizing testing. And I think if you were going to look around at what was working amongst their peers and rivals, GT Sport had a really robust multiplayer environment, and there was certainly things that were hot and cold about the way the penalty system worked and various other things, but by and large it was a really really solid multiplayer racing experience that catered for kind of all skill levels, and a nice place to enter into and kind of get a feel for, okay, this is what competing online with other people is about. And it was very clean, and it was a really elegant solution that Polyphony came up with. And that game had a few other issues with it that I thought at the time, and it really turned into quite a large game at the end of the day. But I think if they were going to do anything, it's the multiplayer, and it's that GT Sport style system where it's very they pull a lot of the strings to get some really good racing happening, scheduled racing.
Other than just just matchmaking with people on the grid, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of that part of that is a. Yeah, sorry. What were you saying, Gaz?
I was going to ask you the question that Colt is afraid to ask. How badly is Forza Motorsport thrashing Gran Turismo?
No way.
Yeah, just answer it, Luke. Just tell me. You know it. We all know it. Forza's going to...
Oh, all right.
Forza's the king... Wait. Forza's the king of the racers, right? You have to... I'm talking motorsport. I'm talking motorsport.
Forza Motorsport 7.
This is a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that I probably played Forza Motorsport 7 a lot longer than I played Sport, because I'm not a very competitively minded racer gamer. It's not really, I don't really like to approach gaming as a sport, and I don't have problem with people who do. It's just not really my kind of preference. So the single player component of Forza Motorsport 7, where you'd collect cars and that was more my speed, so that's more my preference. But GT Sport did a lot right with that multiplayer component. But it did disappoint people that it was so far removed from the traditional Gran Turismo experience. And I think they've course corrected, and they learned a lot with GT Sport, so I don't think it was a wasted experience whatsoever for them.
Yeah.
And I think they've course corrected with GT7. Yeah, with GT7, and I think GT7 looks very, very promising as far as something for GT fans, particularly because they've waited an entire generation for it. And the generation that they got them was the PS3 generation, which was, like, amongst GT fans, well known as a very, very tricky generation for the Gran Turismo series. And Polyphony will be the first ones to admit that was a very hard generation for them.
And that was their last full Gran Turismo was on the PS3, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's interesting times. As far as the question that you touched on just a moment ago, though, people who do compare those two games, GT7 and Horizon 5, I think it's fair to get a little frustrated with those comparisons, though, because they're very dissimilar games at the end of the day.
Not Horizon. I'm talking about the next Forza.
Oh, the Motorsport. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask you both what you expect to see.
That's a next-gen only game. Turn 10 have been... They're going to have time. They've been gestating on this product. And I don't know, you're saying... You're speculating that the next big arena where they really evolve the game is multiplayer. And I'm really intrigued by that. Like, what can they do that's new? Other than the fact that I think you're alluding to the fact that they're going to go down maybe perhaps the Gran Turismo Academy kind of multiplayer route. But what can Forza Motorsport do that, there was franchise fatigue at set in, despite how well Forza Motorsport 7 was received. It felt like there was too much of it. Perhaps maybe a break, but this is like, this is called Forza Motorsport. What are they going to do? What do you think they're going to do with this game? Other than fancy visuals.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think that it sounds like a cop-out, but I think the answer to that question from my perspective is I don't know. But that's what makes me particularly excited. Because because I don't really know where they're going to come at it from. Whether they're going to go with a stronger progression focus where they don't throw as many cars at you straight away, whether they kind of try to increase that ownership over the cars that some games do.
I would actually welcome that. That's one of the things I loved about Gran Turismo 1 is I started with a Honda Civic, the same car I had. It was a 92 Honda Civic, or I think it was 94 in the game. I started with a car I owned, and I had to win like 3 races so I could upgrade the intake so I could actually win the next race. And I had ownership of these cars, and by the time I had like better cars, I put so much time into that. And I feel like you don't do that in most racing games. They just keep gifting you cars, and you keep unlocking, and they spin something, and they throw all these amazing cars at you, and you're like, oh, that one's cool. Like,
but
what do you
it's
think
the
they're going to
instant gratification generation. It's almost like they have to do it. People's attention just wanes nowadays. It's like we're goldfish or magpies. So it's like a tricky thing for the devs, I assume. But,
yeah, definitely is. Yeah. No, I actually don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I am definitely extremely excited to eventually find out. But yeah, it's a hard one.
I think
Xbox reach out?
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, guys.
I was going to say, if I was turn 10 and I'm watching, a lot of people say, look, Gran Turismo is a real driving simulator. I think that there's a lot of pride with these races, not just visually. There is associated with the console itself, but the chap who, I forgot his name now at turn 10. What's his name? The main guy. I saw him once on the show.
Dan Greenwald.
Dan Greenwald. He has a sense of pride. It would eat at him when people say Gran Turismo is more for... There's a racing academy. It's more realistic. And I think perhaps they're going to really double down or really go for more realism, perhaps. Because they've been doing that incrementally in these Forza Motorsport series. And maybe we might see that because there's a sense of pride there. It's like, why can't our races become real-life races? They could do that. I don't know. And physics in car racing games. Where's that? That's so woefully. I know there's licensing issues and stuff, but I want to see crunchy bits flying out. And stuff
like real destruction. I want to see some Burnout Paradise level destruction of the cars.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. That's actually one of my favorite racing games. It's goofy as it is, but Luke, I gotta ask, how do you feel? I know I have my opinion, but how do you feel about the feeling of behind the wheel of cars in Forza Motorsport compared to Gran Turismo? Because I feel a wide gap difference. But do you notice that between Gran Turismo Sport and Forza Motorsport 7?
Yeah, I definitely notice it. It's been a while since I've played GT Sport. And it's actually been a while since I played Forza Motorsport, actually. But yeah, there's definitely differences. In terms of preference, I think maybe Forza's always felt like an exceptional game on a controller. It feels really well designed, well considered for controller users, which admittedly make up the vast bulk of people who play the games.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But in terms of wheel players. I know. It's hard to say. I think Gran Turismo's wheel feel is really good, but it's some of that may be part down to the wheel itself that you're using. Back when we had the office, we had a whole bunch of wheels that we'd have to plug in and unplug and put back on the rig, and so there's differences across the wheels between the games as well. It's kind of hard to say. The feel of both of those games is certainly different. I could definitely, you play one, play the other. You know which one you're playing. But I don't know that I don't know that I'd be able to mount an argument for one over the other necessarily. I think they're both trying to do a lot of stuff. They're trying to simulate a lot of stuff. That, you know, all kind tires, temperatures, chassis flex. Like there's so much stuff that they're trying to simulate. So I think it'd be unfair of me to try to pick someone who's doing something better.
Okay. Do you normally play your racers on a controller, or do you try to split that up?
I do try to split it up, but like Horizon, I played mostly on a controller. I played a little bit on the wheel, but yeah, I try to split it up depending on where the player is, I guess most players are going to come at it from. You know, this IGN is very mainstream, so I need to kind of consider that when I come out a review. You know, I mean, if I was working for a more narrow focused, maybe a more sim racing centric site, then you've really got to drill down on some particular aspects. So I do get some criticism sometimes. It's like, oh, you didn't really talk a lot about the wheel and the settings and all this kind of stuff. It's like, you're exactly right. I won't argue with you about that. But at some point, you know, when you've got a 10 or 11 minute review, it's like I'm trying to cover a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's like I can't really spend 2 or 3 minutes now drilling down on some wheel settings that 95% of the people plus are going to be like, I don't know what this means. Steering linearity. Yeah. What's he talking about?
Right.
This shit?
I'll move it this way. I'll move it. But the real question, Luke, do you wear a zip-up racing suit and a diaper so that you can go to the bathroom while you're playing?
I do have a zip-up racing suit that Xbox.
It's very absorbent.
Xbox sent to us a few years ago. Actually, Xbox Australia did a Xbox onesie.
My gosh.
It's Forza themed, and it is in a drawer somewhere in my house. But I don't wear a lot of gear. I know the pros wear their gloves and all that sort of stuff, and I will stick up for them all day.
For being pros,
yeah, because you know they're not doing it because they think they're in a racing car. So they're doing it because like they sweat a lot, and it's a crucial part of like, you know,
they don't want to catch on fire. I mean, that's
exactly.
It's kind of nice that way.
What if the steering wheel catches on fire? You know.
Yeah.
But no, I just kind of sit in my rig and go for it.
Yeah. Hey, Kung Fu Hot Dog, thanks so much for the £5 super chat. He says, good day, Luke. Love your IGN reviews. Yes. Did you enjoy the MotorStorm series?
Yes, I did. And you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because I was doing I was installing a MotorStorm game the other day for one of my kids to play, and I was reminded at just how ahead of the curve Evolution was at that time, when they had the deformable terrain. And had that kind of really huge festival atmosphere before Horizon. That Horizon Festival atmosphere came into the equation as well. So yeah, those Evolution, that team at Evolution was really talented and remain talented, but just they're not at Evolution anymore. They're part of Codemasters now. I really enjoyed the MotorStorm games.
That's actually funny when you mention Codemasters, because there's been these people shifting around and kind of merging Need for Speed and the Dirt and the Rally series, like you followed it all, like kind of watched this talent kind of get consolidated and moved around into where we're at now. Codemasters. Some people are kind of decisive about Codemasters. I really like their stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Codemasters they've been around a long time, and they have a huge amount of pedigree and history in the racing genre. And I think some people are a little dismissive of that. I would agree. But I think when you look at their catalog, you look at their Dirt, their rally games, they've been pushing the rally genre for over 2 decades.
They're so good.
Their Formula One games are incredibly strong. Like if they hadn't been making the Formula One games, it's hard to say where the Formula One games would be at. Formula One games, there'd always been official Formula One games. Sony had it for a while. EA had it prior to that. And there were good ones and mediocre ones. But the trajectory of the Formula One series has been like fantastic. And so, Codemasters Birmingham have done a really, really good job at really making a motorsports sim / sports sim that feels really credible and authentic, and really inserts you into that Formula One world. You really, it's really well done, and I think it speaks volumes about how well done it is that other developers are trying to ape it. So when you look at the WRC series that Kiloton took over, that they started taking that R&D and that sort of that team building thing from Formula One. They injected it into their own game, and it made it better. So I think people that are making those simulations of a single motorsport and they're looking to the Formula One series, it's a fantastic series, and Codemasters should be commended for the work they've done on it.
Yeah, I love a lot of their games. Dirt 2 is another one of my all-time favorites. Hey, I got to remind the people here watching that, shout out to you for checking out the XNC podcast. We've got over 650 people here, and if you've just joined, we're here with IGN Australia's Luke Riley, the expert of racing games and collector of many, many Hot Wheels. He's done some great stuff. I was talking pre-show about how he explained how you meet people online in the open world in Forza Horizon 4 by showing him and his kids' Hot Wheels on his coffee table. Absolutely fantastic
kids'
stuff.
Hot Wheels.
Yes, so his kids' Hot Wheels, right? I mean, I'm a lot like you. When I was like 6-7 years old, I carried one in each hand, even around the grocery store with my mom. But welcome to the show. If you're enjoying the show and having a good time, take a second to move the chat out of the way with all your great friends you're hanging out with. Hit the like button. Let's get this show up to 500 likes to show your support. We're going to talk about Xbox's big year and what's coming up. We're going to talk about how Forza Horizon 5 is dominating the news landscape right now and what that means. And we're going to talk about the new event coming up at the 20th anniversary for Xbox and a couple of surprises. I'm also going to give out a code here for a car and an emote for those of you who are jumping on Forza Horizon 5 right now or in the next hour or two. So let me get a couple super chats and we'll get into that. We've got Uriel Delgado says, seeing as how people get upset when Gran Turismo 7 is compared to Forza Horizon 5, what's going to happen when Motorsport 8 readies up for release? And we did just cover that, but yeah, it's going to be crazy because there are only a couple genres where PlayStation and Xbox kind of compete, and racing is one of them. And so we'll have to see. Kylo Ren, thank you so much for the $5. He says, Colt, I'm loving the Porsche 918 Spider in Forza Horizon 5. It's pronounced Porsche. How many people say Porsche in the chat? Is that like a pet peeve of yours, Luke?
I'd be exaggerating if it's a pet peeve, but I do make a point to pronounce it Porsche, and it does make me sound like a bit of a knob.
It's funny because back in the day, one of my buddies was a Porsche tech, and he was working at a Pontiac, Cadillac, Chrysler dealership. He aspired to great things, and he was temporarily working at a regular dealership. And he would correct anybody who said Porsche. So that's why I had to bring that up.
Listen to this American guy telling us how to pronounce things. It's quite funny, isn't it? Like
you invented the language.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, come on now. And you got to give me credit because I do try my best. I'm trying to learn.
You do.
I try to learn, even if I'm learning the lingo and the words that you're not supposed to say around other people. But yeah,
I'm teaching a Pakistani. You're trying that as well, so that's fair.
Yeah, Luke. Gaz is in the UK and was born in Pakistan, so he's got
teaching him all the swear words. That's all I'm teaching him.
That's
and the good stuff to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Also, Kylo Ren says, Gaz, bring all the sauce when it comes to the Game of the Year conversation. So we will get into that.
Hell yeah.
Edvin is a new friend of mine. Thank you so much for $5 super chat. He says, we're going to talk about Edvin and some of the stuff that him and I are working on some stuff. I'm going to get into that here in a couple of weeks. I can't wait to get started on things tomorrow. But he says, Assetto Corsa competitive zone will give Gran Turismo 7 and Forza Motorsport 8 a run for their money when it comes to actual sim racing. And he goes, hey, but what do I know? I hear good things about Assetto Corsa.
Whoever that was.
He's a good guy. He knows his racing games. Real quick, Luke, like Assetto Corsa.
Yeah. No, Assetto Corsa Competizione, I liked that a lot. I really liked the feel of it, and I liked where it was going. It had a great bunch of racetracks, a really great selection of cars because of the series it was representing. On console, it was a little dodgy. There was some kind of quirks on console that made it a slightly frustrating play to play. But in terms of where their head's at, where Kuno Simulation's head's at, no, I think it's It was really, really, really good.
Also, a set of courses getting a full PS5 and Xbox Series X enhancement. It either just did or it's on the way. He shared with me a nice sizzle trailer of the upgraded visuals, so you'll get like that all high resolution, 60 frames on your big, massive TV, so that's a good thing. Neil B, Mo B, thank you so much for the $5. He says, Colt, love the show. Everyone hit that like button. So yeah, let's hit the like button. Let's get into Forza Horizon 5 launched in early access, and this is a bit of a controversy.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Why is it with you in the word controversy and pronunciation?
I love it. Just like aluminium. Yeah. No,
aluminium.
But,
oh my.
So the game releases on November 9th, but November 5th, if you paid for the premium edition, you got the game early. But Xbox tells the world, you get our exclusives, our first-party games, day and date on Game Pass. Gaz, let me start with you because I haven't really talked to you about this, but what is your opinion on this controversy?
People are such entitled. You're getting bloody Forza. So much game for not for free, but you're paying for the subscription, but you're getting that. And people, I saw that some people are so entitled about day and date, but the Ultimate Edition, people get it a few days early. They're paying about 60 quid or wherever it is to get access to it. On the one hand, you say Game
45.
Pass is so good, or 40, whatever it is. It's still, they're paying more. You're paying more to get it early. What are you doing? Like, I don't understand that. Like, people are so entitled. On the one hand, it's so unsustainable. It's too good to be true. On the other hand, it's like, oh, you're not giving us the same thing, even though they've paid more for it. Oh, it's not day and date. Yes, it is day and date. That's just early access. There's always been an early access. Some people need to. Okay, this is a family show, but this is just. I don't get it. It's just such a silly argument. I see that so much. I feel like it's people just grasping at straws, trying to find things to complain about, because that's not a valid reason. I can't. And if Luke, I swear to God, if you disagree with me, we're not going to be friends.
Gaz! No. Luke, have you followed this? Like, Gaz makes some really good points. Like,
I've seen some chat about it. And yeah, I would have to say that with the fact that you are not paying any additional fee for it above your Game Pass subscription, it's kind of a hard argument to make. Like, it's a really weird hill to die on. To be like, oh man, you mean I need to wait until Thursday to play this for essentially free? Like, as we just discussed, it's like it's a kind of a hard. It's a real first world problem. Like,
it really is. It really is.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Xbox hasn't been super consistent. Like, I think they're still trying to test the waters. But go ahead.
No, sorry. I mean, yeah. Like, if the messaging is unclear, then maybe that needs to be reworded. But deluxe editions of video games, regardless of publishers, it's not Microsoft. It could be anyone. Like, people who purchase the deluxe edition of that or the ultimate collectors, whatever, getting 2 days, 3 days early access to a game, that's been occurring for years.
And it's going to happen more. Because how many sold? Like 800, almost 1 million players? How many people bought?
1 million players. Yeah, 1 million players. Which I don't know what that translates to, how many people purchase with game sharing in the mix. If you buy the game on Steam, you can Steam share. I don't know, but
that's a lot. That's a lot.
But it's a lot.
I can remember, like, there was just the other day when I logged on to see my on the Hall of Fame leaderboard, and I noticed that there was like just 990 something thousand people. And I'm like, wow, this must have just hit Game Pass. I was like, no, it hasn't yet. It's not even out.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah. This is just the deluxe purchases, and I was like, wow.
And that was like 24 hours in. Like, the game released on the 5th. I don't even remember what day that is. I know today it's Monday. Was it like a Friday? I can't remember, but by the end of the first full day, it was at near 1 million players.
That's insane.
So, Luke, one of the deals with this controversy of people being angry about them saying, play it day one on Game Pass right? They have that whole voiceover thing. Microsoft doesn't have a model where you can pay $20 extra to get the game early. You're paying for the premium bundle, and I'll break it down real quick, and then we'll talk about it. You're getting 2 packs of DLC, which are usually $20 a piece, or I think they're 20 pounds where you guys are, where you're at, Gaz. So let's just say in US dollars, you get 2 expansions. You'll get, let's say you got Fortune Island, and then you get what was the last expansion?
Lego.
I just blanked on it. Lego. Oh, Lego's fun, pretty fun. So you get 2 expansions for $20 a piece. So that's $40, and then you get like 3 or 4 car packs, which is around $20 total. You know, $5, $10 car packs. So basically, you're getting, let's say, $60 to $65 worth of extra content for $45. Plus, you get the game early. So there isn't like a $5, $10, or $20 just pay for extra early access. Like, that's not how these things work. It's an incentive. So you're right, Luke. It's like a first world problem. Like, if you have Game Pass for $45 more, you can have the game 4 or 5 days early, and all of the DLC that comes with the game is already belonging to you.
Yeah.
Or you can just wait a few days.
Just wait.
But nobody wants to wait. That was the problem, Luke. Nobody,
I know. When I said people said Halo, delay Halo, I found out the hard way. People do not like waiting, but they like complaining and making excuses when things tank. Delay Halo. But yeah.
Well, I mean, as like a big car nerd, anything that encourages people to grab the game themselves and to have it, to own it, to have that ownership over it anyway, because racing games famously, whether it's the cars themselves or it's the music or whatever, like, they're always becoming delisted eventually. Because of those licensing deals. So you can't,
pin that. I want to pin that. I want to ask you about that after you're done talking, Luke.
Sorry, you can't play Horizon 3 or Motorsports 7 on Game Pass anymore because those deals have expired. And in a video game that has 700-800 cars in it or whatever, eventually something's going to expire, and you can't start removing stuff from the game.
It'll break stuff. Yeah,
it'll either break stuff, or you'll create like this 2-tiered structure of like, there's the Game Pass people who only have access to half the cars because we've lost the rights to whatever. Like, because you can't start patching out cars that people have. People that you bought from the game, I mean, particularly if you've got it on a disc, you can't start doing that. So that delisting really is the only kind of answer. And Microsoft aren't the only people who do that. Need for Speed games have become delisted in the past. Codemasters games have become delisted in the past. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it gets highlighted as Forza getting delisted. Let me ask you: there's 2 games that are you're talking about being delisted in the past, and one coming up. Just for a second, I want to talk about Grand Theft Auto. I almost said Gran Turismo Auto. Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Remaster is on its way in a few days, and they've pulled about 25 or 30 really great songs out of the trilogy. So, and then people complain when Forza Horizon 3, which came out like 5 years ago or whatever it was, like, as long as you own it, you're good, right? But you can no longer purchase it, and they have to pull it out of Game Pass. It was in there. So, Luke, I can see this being a problem for Grand Theft Auto Trilogy, which came out 20 years ago, but we're in an era right now where digital is 70+% of the market. Why in the world are they striking deals where they only get 3 to 5 years for the licensing on Hyundai Sonata?
Right. Honestly, it's a good question, and it's something that a lot of the devs that they just don't really talk about the licensing in their games, because they have. I guess it's because and this is just me speculating, but they have so many partners that once they start talking about it, and then other partners start finding out, like, wait, this deal's slightly different. We want that deal. That's my assumption. You know what I mean? So they kind of just don't really chat about it. Part of the reason maybe that Forza can have 800 cars in it is maybe they have shorter licenses. Maybe shorter licenses didn't say Need for Speed games that do sort of sit on digital storefronts for a lot longer, but they have much narrower selections of cars. I don't know. It's an expensive undertaking, I would expect, to have that many partners and have that many cars.
And have it indefinite, like to strike a deal with Porsche and say, hey, we want the licensing for the car, but we want to have it we want the game to persist and be preserved. and that doesn't work.
And to be able to sell it forever, I guess not. Yeah, no, it's a good question, but I don't quite know the answer to that side of things. It's a very businessy question that either devs aren't really privy to or can't really discuss.
I actually talked to Bill Stillwell, who used to work with the Xbox group, and they worked in building games. And he said that some of the licensing, Luke and Gaz, he said some of the licensing for music or for car models or for different things that had to be licensed, he said they went back to bring games in back compat forward. And that's one of the biggest hurdles is licensing. He said they literally found dinner napkins with a licensing agreement scribbled in pen, like you agree to use this song or whatever. And he said they have to take this napkin and scan it and send it off and talk about extending permission. So it's a super funky. And of course, we don't blame you, Luke, for not knowing the ins and outs of that, but it is an interesting discussion. One more thing I'll add to that for the audience is if you do get in an argument with someone about why they're delisting Forza Horizon 3 when they say everything stays in Game Pass from first party, just remind people that if you already own the game, you can always re-download it. It's just cutting you off from selling it again or selling it or buying it later, right? Is that how it works?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I made a video the other day, Tristan and I, with just sort of a look back at the Forza, charting the Forza series from the very beginning, and I was pulling down DLC for Forza Motorsport 2 on my 360 to just make sure that my save file worked, because my save file wouldn't open without having all of that content downloaded. And so it's all still there. Like, don't worry about it. Once you
purchased it, right? Exactly, you own it. Yeah.
And I think to their credit, when Forza Motorsport 7 was imminently about to expire and become delisted, there was a fire sale on that DLC. They just wanted to. They just wanted to put it out there. They're like, yeah, if you're still playing Forza 7, or if you want to get on board, here's the DLC. It's like $1, or like it's just get it. You know, just get it before we can't sell it anymore. Basically, they just want to put it in people's hands. So, I think it's just a business reality of that. Like you said, you saw it with the music in GTA, which is tragic. Particularly some of those songs, how crucial some of those songs are to certain points in the game.
They took out "Welcome to the Jungle" by Guns N' Roses, and they took out a bunch. They took out "Billie Jean" from Michael Jackson. Some of these real. Gosh dang it! I'm so excited to kind of mess around with that game this year, and they took
Billie Jean is the first song that everybody hears in Vice City. It was anyway. And you think it's an accident. It's engineered as this lovely accident. Like you feel like you're the only person in the world. I've just sat in this car, and Billie Jean just started on the radio, and I'm in the 80s. But it happens to everyone. It's so well engineered, and now it's gone.
Yeah, it really sucks.
Well, it was gone. So I know they took it out of the other remasters. So you're saying it's definitely not in these new ones either?
Yeah, I don't have the list in front of me, but there's 25 songs that they pulled out. And I looked through, and half of them I was like, okay, I'll excuse it. And then there were some other ones like, oh, man, I need those songs to get the whole experience. But
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out for sure. I don't know how. Some of those things, where there's smoke, there's fire. It's probably true. Oh, so here's the next thing that comes with Forza Horizon 5. So we talked about how they got 1 million people playing day one. The game comes out tonight in 3 hours from now for most people across the globe, or at least in the US in 3 hours. So they had 1 million people playing, and then there was the excuse from the people who didn't want to see Xbox have a great success that the game was cracked on PC day one. Did you hear about this, Luke?
I did not. I have to confess, I did not hear about this.
Okay, so what happens is these big games hit the PC market, and the hackers go to work and crack the game so they can make a downloadable torrent and give people access to the game free. And they did this while the game is in early access for the people that paid for it. Somebody buys the early access, reverse engineers or whatever, and gets it into the hacker realm, and then you've got a cracked game where you can download the game for free. So one of the arguments that was persisting online quite a bit yesterday was that, oh, well, who cares? They got 1 million people playing, but how many of those people played it pirated? Have you dealt with the pirating I don't want to say the pirating scene, but have you dealt with the pirating fiasco in your professional life where people come up with this? So why don't I just take it for free?
Well, I mean, not really. From my side of the fence, it doesn't really come up. People don't approach me with that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm not really exposed to that.
With like open up their coat and go, "Hey, Luke."
The guy from Resident Evil, selling stuff.
But yeah, I think I just think looking at that Hall of Fame, I don't know. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit that I definitely don't know how the sausage gets made and how all that sort of piracy stuff would work with a game that is so online focused. And so I don't know how many of those people would be able to be populating that Hall of Fame leaderboard. I don't know how the game. It feels like something that wouldn't work. Like I know there's an offline component of that game. You can play it offline.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe that's the version that you would get if you were gonna like knock it off. But I don't know that those million people would have any of those people, the sort of the pirates in it. But like I said, I don't know.
I mean, it's a small group of gamers, and somebody said in the chat like 1%. It's probably very small. Gaz, what was your reaction to this yesterday?
It seems like I think it was off the series of narratives that got immediately destroyed. So I saw this thing where such a stupid narrative where apparently, and actually there was some semblance of, I guess, some truth to it. Why do Xbox gamers always recede to the good gameplay argument when visuals are called into question? This was off the back of Halo. And then Luke, you're probably beyond the cesspit of Twitter when it comes to this kind of discourse. But we like to swim in the source, as we say, because it's just sometimes the gutter is fun. But this gained traction, and then there was like bad visuals. Why do Xbox people accept it? And then you've got Forza Horizon 5 just comes out with one of the best looking games I've ever had the pleasure of playing. And then they were like then this was compounded by the box sales for Guardians of the Galaxy in the UK, where a significant amount of players bought the game on PlayStation over Xbox, but this was box sales and completely disregarded digital sales. And then they were like, you see Game Pass is killing the industry. And then you've got this thing where almost 1 million people are paid for the premium version, and that doesn't reconcile and sit well with the narrative that they've been building for that week so hastily. And then that just collided. I was like, it's got to be piracy. And there was me just sitting there maniacally laughing and quite sadly entertained by this for someone in his mid-30s, but I loved it. And really, that's what it is. It's just silly narratives. Are you really going to assign, what kind of percentage are you going to assign to this nearly 1 million people supposedly pirating the game? 10% of the pirates are there? 20%? Say 30% pirated that game. That's still 700,000 people who paid for that game. Like, I mean, okay, 50%, just give it to you. Let's just give you the benefit of the doubt that you so clearly don't deserve, you great supine protoplasmic invertebrate jellies. But
yes!
Okay, fine.
How dare you go scientific on them? Part of the problem
but
was
it's so silly. It's so silly, but I love it. For me, this is the gaming industry. I love the stupidity because it's just nice. It just bask in it. But in seriousness, I think there is a point to be made about Game Pass and, the sustainability and things. I think Microsoft will be very happy with the performance, the genuine non-pirated performance of something like this. And having looked at this, they'll be way more inclined to do this kind of early release, because I think Microsoft are desperate to do something like that to offset maybe the costs that or the expenditure in getting this happening, because I imagine it's a loss maker at this point. That's why they tried to do the gold hike, and that got immediately rebuked, and they did a U-turn straight away. So you're going to see a more like this. So yeah, as for the narrative, it's nonsense, but we can sit here and laugh and poke fun at them and make content about it like I am the petty man that I am. But generally, I think it speaks of the industry evolving quite a bit. But if we can ever find out what that actual percentage of piracy is, then that'd be interesting to know. But I severely doubt it's anything remotely
substantial,
serious, or substantial that would be caused because. But any piracy is bad piracy. Unless you live in Pakistan where piracy is fine, but that's different. Hey man, that's a different story.
Well, I mean that is kind of where I wanted to lead this, because you got to wonder what they're going to do next. This kind of goes into the talk about Halo, but Gaz is right. Like I think this is a good idea for Xbox to say, why don't we offer early access and kind of see if we can get more people to maybe spend a little extra. I mean, that's what business does. But obviously, an early access premium deluxe package with more DLC is wildly popular right now. Like it worked, right? They had 1 million people, or they had 500,000+ people that at least that individually bought up on this, right, Luke? Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think it obviously worked way better than I would have anticipated. It's way more people than I kind of thought would be on board day one with the deluxe edition. But yeah, it's hard. A lot of people associate downloadable content and pre-order content and microtransactions, and they kind of lumped them into the same jar. But for me, they're quite detached, because I absolutely don't mind paying for a la carte additional content on top of a game that I'm really enjoying playing. What I don't like is, say, spending money on a virtual currency for loot boxes, or for a chance of this or a chance of that. Like all of that stuff is
sure.
Yeah, that's different to me than like, here's 7 more cars for this game that you love. And like, yeah, sure. What's that? $8? No worries. I'll take that. So I think I think obviously if that I guess system of offering several days early access to the people who hop on board, who were probably going to hop on board anyway, with the deluxes and the whatevers. If that works, that works.
Okay, well, let's talk about Halo Infinite, and hopefully, Luke, you dabble in more than games that are just 4-wheeled, right?
Yes, yeah.
So,
but hey, there's a warthog in Halo anyway, so you've got.
There you go. Actually, the warthog is fantastic in Forza Horizon. You can't really make it a monster, but I don't know what, it just feels so good it's such a bumbling, soft and squishy vehicle. I don't know. I just love the suspension on it, but
soft and squishy vehicle.
I don't know what else to call it, but like
when of the Warthog.
I don't like to drive the Warthog in dashboard view, so I use third person because it just doesn't look that good. It's got a tall dash and tall hood, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So, but when you watch it in third person, those big wheels are just kind of they're very voluptuous. But let's talk about
what are you describing here. But never mind.
you know what I'm talking about. So I love the Warthog, but. Let's talk about Halo Infinite, because we're going to start hearing more about Halo Infinite very soon. I'm really excited. Some things are coming my way, so I'm super excited about it. I'm sure, Luke, in your circle, you'll get to see some of Halo, maybe a little earlier for some people here watching. So we're very grateful. But there's 2 questions here. One is, Luke, do you think that they will have a early access deluxe model, even though the multiplayer is free? And the other question, maybe I'll give this second question to Gaz. Gaz, the second question is, how many people are going to be on Halo Infinite day one? So, Luke, what was the first question?
It's about early access, right?
Yeah, do you think they'll do early access?
I don't know, to be honest. They could. I guess it just depends on what they can offer. Is it a game that, like, you know, racing games and sports games and certain types of games that they feel easy to augment with extra offerings, like you can have extra this and extra cars and extra stuff like that. What do you give extra with Halo? I don't know what that is. Other than
Cosmetics for the multiplayer, I guess,
cosmetics,
maybe.
I guess. So yeah, maybe, but I'm not really sure. It's hard to say.
Okay. Gaz, you can add on to his about what you think they'll do with early access, and then I want you to give us your wild prediction, and we'll ask Luke what he thinks will be on day one. How many people? Knowing, like, bounce it off of Forza Horizon.
There were some rumblings of an early access pack, and Geordie from Xbox Era messaged me, like, look at this. Then there's a supposed, like, extract from the Windows Store of an early access package. It wouldn't surprise me. And I guess Luke's right. Well, what can you offer there? Maybe perhaps some cosmetics. And you're right, Colt. You mentioned, well, the multiplayer is free to play, so the value proposition. But then remember, just the mere notion that some people get to play it early would be enough. Remember Crackdown and the beta? I would pay untold amounts. Microsoft, don't listen to this. I don't want to give them bad ideas, but to play it early.
I mean, people did. People did,
and I bought Crackdown just for the Halo 3 beta, so people will pay. And it's a good idea if Microsoft want to do it. But then it kind of fractures. See, you're right. Luke, I get what you mean. It kind of fractures the player base a little bit, especially in a competitive game like that. And you give some people an advantage because a few days extra early play can mean the world, actually. Especially games like in Battlefield when people get to know the map and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it can happen. It's all guesswork here, but I wouldn't be surprised. As for your second question, how many people play Halo Infinite? Approximately 7 people, Colt. 7 people. What do you want me to do at this point? It's just like I'm gonna pluck a number out. Then I have no.
Are you serious? You can't make an educated, scientific, mathematical guess.
Do I look educated? No.
From all of your.
Are we doing closest without going over? Because I'll say 8.
You two sit here knowing this game's going to be on Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles,
and
PC.
That's why it makes it difficult. It makes it so difficult. I could throw. Someone could say 17 million. I don't know what
you're
that
not
means.
thinking, guys. Like
I'm not.
You're one of the smartest guys I know. But Forza Horizon 5, a niche car game, right? Like Luke, niche,
made
right?
1 million views,
right? Almost a million people in the first day of early access. Now, if Halo Infinite drops day for everybody, same day, December 8th. Like, I'm seeing the chat have the number. I'm thinking 2 million. Commander Luke says 1 million. But, I mean, Halo's a big deal. So I got to ask you, Luke, we're going to talk about the visuals and how Digital Foundry kind of looked at the game here in a minute. But Battlefield 2042 is massive. Call of Duty Vanguard is kind of tepid and lukewarm right now. What do you expect the reception for Halo Infinite to be based on like this trifecta of shooters coming this holiday?
I think
this is all your opinion.
Yeah, totally. I think the stage is really set for Halo to make a big splash on the back. Like I'm playing Vanguard at the moment. I don't play multiplayer shooters, but I do play the single player component. So Vanguard has me sorted out there. Battlefield less so, obviously, because that's kind of multiplayer focused. But yeah, I think the stage is really set for Halo to make a really big impact, particularly with it's been on a bit of a hiatus for I can't tell you how many years now, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of momentum behind it. It's interesting timing. December. Sort of coming out after that spike of games that we've had with, you know, Battlefield and Call of Duty and now Forza and various other games. So yeah, it's right. It's kind of on the tail of that. So it may, I guess, be the game that people keep chatting about as the year concludes and beyond, as opposed to coming out a little bit earlier than being replaced in the discourse by something else. So that could help it, particularly if it's very strong and the word of mouth is great for it. So yeah, I think could be great. Could be great for it. Yeah.
I know, Gaz, you're torn a little bit because you're so hyped for both games. So what do you think is going to happen when those two games drop? I kind of feel like Call of Duty is like kind of so popular, but what people are going to be talking about the most, I guess.
COD versus Halo? There's no COD. The Vanguard
No.
like...
Battlefield.
No,
Battlefield 2042.
Nah, I don't think Battlefield. Battlefield, with the beta and the reception, they kind of pulled back a lot of people's hype for it. I mean, there still remains to be seen how they performed, particularly when you had the flighting for Halo, and that comparatively was so butterly smooth. Obviously, Halo's a gargantuan IP, and then it gets judged by this really high standard. But it's going to be Halo, and Luke's right. You know, the positioning in terms of release, you know, closer to Christmas as well, and this one has everything is set there. All the cards are set in place now. Whatever happened with the delays, it seems to have worked in its favor now. All these Battlefield will be good, but you know, just draw the comparisons. You're getting a multiplayer only title versus Halo that has a fully fledged multiplayer that's free to play. And it's on PC, and that's a first for, well, it's not first, but like Halo Infinite coming day and day as multiplayer on PC is huge. Multiple consoles. The game it's the flagship title of this platform. It's been at the forefront of everyone's mind. It's unquestionably Halo that's it has the mind share of everyone. It's going to have the mind share of people when they want to know what happens with the campaign. They're going to already be under the microscope, people assessing it for its graphics. A lot of people at Digital Foundry, shout out to them, and they've been quite worried or critical about the open world formula of it. That remains to be seen. Plus, this is a game, let's say it's, to mind the pun, infinitely more ambitious in scope. Because of its decade-long plan, that also, we get to finally see what that is. Is that really just a red herring, or will they come through with that? Halo Infinite is a different beast. It's almost like if you're DICE, you're like, oh shit, why are we launching amongst this guy? They're trying really hard, 343. Multiplayer, free to play, don't scoff at that, because that is a fully fledged multiplayer mode, tightly balanced, possibly the best Halo game multiplayer we've seen in a very long time, possibly the best ever. And having had the benefit of playing the flighting, and I don't say that lightly, it's going to be Halo, man, for better or worse. But my God, if it does not hit those notes, which I think it will hit those notes, but if it doesn't, jeez. I'm going to love the internet anyway, one way or the other. I'll cry inside. Halo's my number one franchise. Yeah. But it's definitely Halo. There's no question to me.
Yeah, I want to ask Luke about Digital Foundry here in a minute. I got a couple super chats that are a little bit older, but I'll just read them out here. Lord Starkiller, thanks for the $5 super chat. He says, for me, Gran Turismo is less forgiving to adjustments. Forza Motorsport 7, in his opinion, had better overall control and game depth, and he would like to see ray tracing in the next Motorsport. I think there will be ray tracing in-game. That's my prediction, and that's kind of what they've been saying. Gran Turismo, not so much. Jose Linares, thank you for the $2. He says, Colt Eastwood podcast in the year and Forza Horizon 5 game of the year. Be nice. That's what my catchphrase says. And Cade Forever, thank you for the $5. He says, with the anniversary coming up, do you think backward compatibility, some classic racing games? Luke, do you think they'll have Sega GT Racing, Project Gotham, or maybe Blur come back? Or do you think those are out of licensing for back compat?
Well, yes. The short answer to the question is absolutely. But that is a great selection of games there.
Yeah.
Yeah, PGR, Blur particularly. Blur was so underrated.
Criminally overlooked, man.
Yeah. It got short-sighted. Like, what released next to it? Because Blur just got buried.
Split Second or something? What was it? That other game?
I think Split Second came out that season, but it didn't bury Blur. There was something else that came out. I don't know if you guys can remember back that far.
But yeah, no, those games are obviously full of cars that would just be well expired by now. Like the PGR had the DeLorean in it, and that's only just came back. That's only just came back to Horizon 5 now. It's going to be kind of sent out as one of the rewards for every week you come back and you play certain events and you can earn free cars. That's the plan for the DeLorean, I think. So yeah, that's only just come back to Forza.
I missed the DeLorean during the first couple days. So I have to wait.
It surely it's going to come back around because that first couple of days the public wasn't around.
Right.
So
right.
I'm sure. Yeah, I think they've discussed that it's going to be like one of the Forzathon weekly prizes for everybody basically, which is
the DeLorean's actually a really piece of crap car. It's an inline six, and it's an inline six, and it's just gutless and the founder was he had a rough life going on, but iconic DeLorean. I can't wait to drive it and ride.
I think that's one of the reasons why it hasn't been in a Forza game for so long is because they had that. Remember in Forza Motorsport 4, and they had when they first introduced the Auto Vista mode, they called it Auto Vista. It's the Forza Vista mode, and they had Jeremy Clarkson doing the little little chats.
Yeah.
They had to patch. They had patched out the DeLorean one.
Really? Because there was
because he was really because of what he said about it. I don't know what particularly he said about it. He said a lot of stuff about it.
Really?
John DeLorean did?
I didn't know that.
They patched that one out. All the other ones are still intact, but that one has been patched out. And then the DeLorean.
Oh, you mean they patched out because Clark said something snarky in his description of the DeLorean?
It was a very snarky description of the DeLorean.
Oh, that's perfect,
they
though.
patched it out. Yeah, well, it's accurate, but yeah. So yeah, that may have something to do with it. But whatever.
And Xbox is like, oh no,
they've rebuilt that bridge. They've rebuilt that bridge with the DeLorean Motor Company, and it's back in the game. So that's good.
There you go. You're behind the scenes of what happened to DeLorean and Forza Motorsport 5. It was 5, wasn't it?
You said 4. It was in 4.
It was in 4.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess he did. Okay.
But he still did the VOs in. He did the VOs in 4 and 5. Yeah.
Okay. That's why I got it. Okay. There was a question Kylo Ren asked earlier. I missed it. He asked if you drove the mid-engine Porsche. If you've ever been in one of those, I don't know if he meant the Spider or. Have you driven a mid-engine car before?
I've driven. Yes, I've driven. I think the only Porsche I've ever driven is a Boxster. I couldn't tell you which one. Yeah. Somebody said DeLorean's a V6. I'm pretty sure it's an inline 6, right? If I remember right. I think so. Yeah. It had a Renault engine in it, didn't it?
I don't know that much, but I mean, we got a couple experts here. Let's see. We got Kylo Ren with the $5 says, every time I beat Colt, Dealer, or Zocker, a couple of my friends on Xbox and RDX podcasts, in my race, it makes my day. Gaz, I got to start following you on Xbox Live to see what you got on the streets. So
don't add Gaz, because then you won't have that same satisfaction.
We gotta add Luke on there so we can see if we can smash some of his leaderboard accomplishments. DJ with the $5 says, birthday tomorrow, Horizon preloaded, work PTO'd. Work done, I guess.
Time off.
Personal time.
Yeah,
hey, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he says, let's go. And Hargit Johnny, thank you so much for the $5. He says, I can't stand this word, but this is his super. He says, ponies are reaching. Crack games, really? They have nothing else to talk about now. Yeah, I mean, it's rough. It's a dry holiday. They had a good first part of the year, but everybody's got games coming from now on. We're going to be...
And they've got Twitter spaces, so that's okay.
Luke, have you seen these Twitter spaces? You're not on Twitter much, are you?
No, I get on there and I kind of respond to people who want to have a chat, but I don't go on a lot. So no.
Good. You have a life, is what you've just said. That's good. That's good. I wish we could say the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I just can't see. But they have these. You could do these audio group chats, and they'll hold these therapy sessions about whatever the big news is that's hurting everybody's feelings. So we're just poking a little bit of fun at that. Let's see. Hargit Johnny with the $10 says, Luke, maybe you can hint to Ryan that I think he might mean Ryan McCaffrey. I don't know how often you guys talk, but he says that it's okay to give a game a 10 when he reviews Halo Infinite. He's like, just nudge him with the elbow. He says, yeah, nice, huh? He says Ryan doesn't give out 10s, but if Halo Infinite is really good, maybe he can make an exception. He's got smiley faces in there, so I think he's a good guy. He's playing around, but yeah, you get to work with McCaffrey pretty frequently.
Yeah, well, I am kind of a part of the reviews team officially, but obviously I work with a lot of the team over in the US. I work with Ryan on certain previews, and certain early interviews that we're arranging, chats with devs and that kind of stuff. So anything like that, that's what I work with Ryan for. And then obviously I work with Lucy and the features team with some of our big feature content. And we kind of work with everybody. We're a very small team in Australia, and we're kind of across a bunch of different areas.
How many are staffed in your office? Like, even though a lot of you are working remote, but
yeah, well, just the three of us in terms of the content team down here.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That you said very small. That's very, very, very small.
Mm.
I mean, it's you got to give so much credit, guys, because I know almost all of us in chat, we've grown up seeing this content from IGN and IGN Australia. And like I was telling Luke, like these car racing reviews, I've seen so many of them. So it's a real honor to have him here. And if you're just joining us, this is the XNC Podcast. Hit the like button if you're having fun. We're also on Spotify, Google, Apple, and Pocket Podcasts. So after the show wraps, about an hour after, it's up. So you can put in earbuds and, do the dishes, or put in earbuds and play Forza Horizon and, check out the show. But we've got a couple of resident Australians in the chat. One here is Risk It for the Biscuit. He's a great channel member. He says, I suck at Forza, but I love it. It's so beautiful. Sorry I'm late. You'll have to run the show for an extra hour. It's good to see the Australian people jump in here and have something to say. So, all right, I got to ask you, Luke, do you follow this Digital Foundry? They're a great site in the UK, and they cover real technical stuff. I want to first ask you about their analysis and their opinion of Forza Horizon 5. Did you follow some of that?
I've seen some. I saw some of the earlier stuff. I haven't watched their assessment of the review. It's the review build, the final build itself. But I did see some of their stuff early on, which obviously it's from. It's stuff that I can't drill down to that level because I don't have that. I don't have the language or I don't have that technical vocabulary when it comes to games and building games. I come at it from a very kind of informed dad perspective. And that's my angle. So when it comes to that kind of thing, Digital Foundry is obviously, they've obviously got that market quite cornered. I know that Destin on IGN and another fella, we did some very similar stuff. It was a little bit more digestible.
Simplified.
Really good.
For me,
really good. Yeah. The Gears one, for instance, we had a dev input in there at the same time. A lot of people like that.
But Digital Foundry, like some really, really interesting stuff, and it certainly confirmed a lot of my my thoughts about how good Forza looks. Forza is just such an incredible, and it's not the only one, but it is such an incredible just feat of production that it can look so good. And racing games are, I guess, easier, and I say this from a completely ignorant perspective. I don't build games, and I'm not in the gaming industry. I'm in the media industry. But racing games they can scale a little bit easier than some other sorts of games that rely heavily on characters and other stuff like that. But the fact that
more packed in stuff.
The fact that you can look at the game run on Series X and then run on PC and then run on the original Xbox One, where it's still not a slouch. Like you can see, it's like, I can see there's like the level of detail is definitely more restricted, and it pops in a little bit later, and so on and so forth. But it still looks incredible in the scheme of things. Not compared to the Series X versions and such, but like it's just an incredible feat of production that they can get it running. 30 frames per second / 60 frames, like wherever you find it, it's that completely locked 30 frames or 60 frames.
Amazing.
And it looks good
modes.
It looks like so amazing no matter which you choose, just depending on what you want to feel. Exactly.
Hey, let me Foundry was saying that in their piece they were saying apparently Playground Games have a dedicated team solely they're concerned with hitting that 60 solid. Anything changes goes to them. It's a mad undertaking.
Like back and forth until they get it right.
Yeah, like everything. They are fixated on that fixed 60. It's amazing.
I do notice
shout out to that studio, man.
Oh yeah, and I do notice like some of the sagebrush will look kind of simplified. When you get close as you're driving, it'll pop into like this amazing realistic thing. But it's never anything like that's the worst thing I could find. It's never anything that takes away from the beauty of the game. I got to give a shout out to some of the Australians in the chat who are representing where they're from. We got Kiz, he says from Newcastle. We've got a Jedi Knight Peter from Melbourne. Decimator X808, he says from Coffs Harbour, East Coast. I don't know these places. They sound fantastic. And if
Just
I was
say
playing Forza Horizon 3,
Yeah, Coffs Harbour, home of the big banana. Coffs Harbour.
Oh, okay.
Big banana.
Yeah,
okay, isn't that your nickname online, Gas?
What? There's some weird sexual innuendos you've been dropping today.
No, not me, not me. Let's see. We got Noob Sabot JP45 says for the $5. He says, unfortunately, Halo's open world will be compared to open world games like GTA 5 and other greats. I'm not so sure. He says this won't be that, but it will be good. Like, Luke, what do you expect from the open world of Halo?
Gosh, I don't really know. Like, it's definitely it's a big step change, I guess. Although the maps have always had that sandbox nature, but they're obviously smaller sandboxes than one large world. I don't know. I think the potential is pretty incredible, and the investment there, I would assume, has resulted in something quite impressive. Otherwise, you feel like the plug would have been pulled a long time ago if this wasn't working out. You know what I mean? With such a
yeah.
So
I think it's a deliberate thing there. I think for a lot of people, when I see that, I see Zelda Breath of the Wild. I think there's so Digital Foundry, and I completely understand their view. And then
that's a weird take, but yeah, go ahead.
I don't think it's a weird take. I think the jury's still out there, and I understand where Alex Battaglia is coming from when he was like, "Look, normally the reason that the 30 seconds of fun formula that's what they have, right? In order to have that, you have to devise these scenarios where you have encounters in here, and you can pace that in a game that's more linearly structured, but comparative to an open world game. How do you maintain that in a world that has no barriers, that has that, less of that structure? So there's going to be a challenge there. But when I saw the gameplay, I saw something I didn't expect from the Halo. It's almost a realization of the potential of what Halo can be. That 30 seconds, you can then break that down and then maybe expand on it. Because when they showed that, in order for a sandbox, so a lot of people are comparing this with Far Cry and say it's going to fall into that trap of the Ubisoft's open world formula trappings. And there is a concern there. But I think it can go beyond that if the gameplay can meld itself with the open world mechanics of the game, like Zelda Breath of the Wild. Like, it makes the impression it gives how the systems work together in unison. And I think Halo Infinite can really, the jury's out there, we'll see how we do it, but I think they can hit those notes and hit that kind of cadence with the open world. And there's still a lot of surprises there. I always thought the 30 seconds formula, that there's a bit of a sound bite, because there's more to the potential of that gameplay. You don't have to be stuck to this code here. So I don't know, but I'm when I saw, it just reminded me of wow, this is what I wanted. This is what I always wanted. Like Luke, you said, it always kind of felt like open world. So my mind always raced at. So I remember distinctively disappointed at Halo 2 because I thought they had screenshots that had mountains at their early release bull shots. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the Halo game that could be like you always imagine. Yeah. But it wasn't a lie. It was just a bullshit. And my imagination running wild. And it was a little bit more tightly, corridor, whatever, curated. Spaces. Yeah. It wasn't even corridor, but it wasn't as open as I wanted. So this is it. This is finally it. I'm disappointed lack of co-op, because my friends can now be there to play around with the sandbox, but that's coming in time. So it remains to be seen. A lot of people jump down Alex Battaglia's throat, as they would, because it's Halo. But
you haven't said, but Alex Battaglia said he wasn't very impressed with the year of development. The game doesn't look that much better. He said sometimes the game looks about the same. which is fine. And I know some people in the chat are like, they're not cool with Digital Foundry. I really like that team a lot.
I love that team.
One of the things that, to kind of paint the picture a little easier for you, Luke, is one of the concerns with the open world is they're afraid that they'll do the Ubisoft thing where there's all these things to do on your map and it's just overkill. But you don't expect that from a Halo game, do you?
I certainly wouldn't expect it, and I'd be disappointed if that's what it became, because I've definitely fatigued out on Far Cry personally. I loved Far Cry 3, and then Far Cry 4. I didn't finish, and Far Cry 5 I finished, but I was I was pretty lukewarm on it overall. And then Far Cry 6, I haven't even downloaded it. I'm not sure. And lots of people that I know and respect are kind of having a lot of fun with Far Cry, and they're playing it in a certain way. But it's I don't know if that's what if that's what we got from Halo. I'd be pretty disappointed. Pretty disappointed. But I'm not anticipating on something like that. It feels really off-brand for Halo.
Absolutely, yeah. And I also feel like, knowing 343, there's no way they would pack that map full of... I mean, they got to get this game running and ready to rock. I feel like the fun in the open world is what you're going to make it, because they want you to... For those of you who played a lot of Halo, you die to a brute and you respawn at the checkpoint, and your attack usually isn't the same. Sometimes the elites or the brutes, they don't come at you the same way as they did 10 seconds ago when you died. It's part of that special thing. I was talking to, oh gosh, I won't name drop. I was talking to somebody pretty cool about Halo the other night, and I said something about how the flighting, how the AI was so like convincing that I was like, I'm surprised it wasn't the devs hiding in the server closet messing with us and saying, yeah, we're doing our best to play against the people in the flighting. And he said that Halo is using, what was the word he used? He said he called it like an MAI, like a machine learning AI, where he said they're always learning. And so I said, like, does that spill into the camp? Yeah, he said, does that spill into the campaign? He goes, yeah. Like, so when you approach levels over and over, you go into different outposts, like the AI enemies, the brutes, the grunts, the elites, they are learning from your tactics, and they're going to try.
Who's this person? You have to name drop now. You can't drop that and not tell us.
No, because it sounds like I got to play with. Yeah, from Xbox. Yeah, I got to play.
He spoke to Phil Spencer. Everyone, Skynet is real.
Yeah, it just makes like we kind of joke about, like, if these AI are going to get so smart, how long until an elite AI takes control of a computer and the computer grows legs, and then we got the end of the world. It's gonna be great, but I'm super excited. I think we expect great things.
That AI thing, Halo AI in games has not evolved beyond what I saw in combat evolved. Halo, that AI still is amazing. Well, not amazing, but it's stalled in terms of progression. So if Halo Infinite brings that back, and we see that, like, you're right with the Spartan stuff, was almost indistinguishable at some points from humans, although their aimbot levels were quite high. But if you do that with the variety of enemy AI in the campaign, whew, that's another big thing that Halo gets right. That could make it finally worthy of the core trilogy.
Yeah. And Luke, you've played through most all the Halos, so are you well seasoned enough to speak on the AI that will take over the world?
Well, you talk the way you talk about it, like, it sounds a little. Certainly, I don't want to be like.
Do it.
Sounds a little bit like the Drivatars in Forza Horizon.
I thought the same thing.
But yeah, I mean, when you have that many people playing a game, it seems like madness not to ever harness it. So if that's the case, if what you're describing is kind of in that wheelhouse where they're kind of their AI is learning and becoming better based on the actions of the millions of players or whatever that are playing the game, it certainly makes sense to me.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully. Now, does Xbox send you early access to games that aren't drivey, racy?
As like kind of, it's not as a rule. I don't get everything just kind of automatically. But I do get certain games that I don't have a role on. So like I'm playing Call of Duty, for instance, because I was fortunate enough to kind of get that arrive in my inbox. Halo, I'm sure that I could finagle my way into to getting a taste of that if I have time. I've got some deadlines looming, but yeah, I definitely would like to play it if I get access, if it pops up in my inbox. But yeah, it depends.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real treat to review stuff, and I've been talking to some of the people I work with in the YouTube space and like that. One of the things that we didn't really touch on it earlier in the show, Luke, but one of the things about reviewing games is, as I've learned from experience, is you're kind of you're under the gun to get through the game in a certain amount of time. While you're playing the game, you're taking mental note or you're taking physical notes of what you need to put in the review. You have to meet an embargo. You have to make sure that you follow NDA and don't spoil things that are in the written long PDF, right? So when you review games, this is kind of a nasty question, but do you feel like some of the fun can be sucked out of the experience and that it makes it hard to not take that away from the score? Because it's a big job sometimes.
Yeah, probably more before I joined IGN, and I was reviewing a lot bigger cross section of games, and certainly games that I didn't really have a particular affinity for or a massive keenness on. That I guess sometimes that felt a little bit more chore-like.
A puzzle card game, or
the luxury of IGN, and it's certainly something I never take for granted, is the fact that we do have a really decent team. I know the team I chatted here is quite small in Australia, but IGN as a whole, and we contribute to because we're part of US and UK operation. It's all kind of one thing. We do have a decent sized team, and we have people with various interests. So people you don't have to I get the chance to drill down on certain beats, so I can really focus on racing games, and there's other things that appeal to me. Like I love westerns, so Red Dead Redemption was obviously something that appealed to me.
Yes.
I love the Hitman games. There's lots of different. I have a very eclectic taste in games, but I certainly have some key blind spots that if I was.
Do you have to push for certain games? Like Red Dead is a massive game to review on your huge site, right? Did you have to twist somebody's?
I just volunteered. I just said, yeah, you need something to review it. I'll do that. And that was an interesting week. But we Rockstar sent that out with enough time to play it. I've seen this. I've seen people discuss this. And yeah, it's I have I got the 3 kids, and they all play 2 different sports apiece, and we have busy lives. But this is my in the media, that's my role, so I can carve out the time and I can get it done. And so I certainly never find myself resenting the time I spend with games at all ever. I always approach games from a very positive place. And
yeah,
I'm disappointed if the game. I'm always I'm disappointed if the game is kind of is mediocre or kind of below what I expected,
or let you down.
Yeah, if it lets me down, oh, that's a shame. But I also know that developers never, they never set out to create a bad game, and lots of factors can conspire to make a game not kind of work out as well as anybody anticipated. But no, I always approach games from a kind of a positive place, because
that's good.
It's it's a great place to be, and it's a great kind of thing to do. I love playing games. And writing is the only thing that I'm good at. So the novelty for me for working in the media has never worn off, and I can't really expect that.
That's amazing. That's good.
I can't really expect that it would. I'm cynical about a few things, but not not to a degree
I do get
I'm especially jaded like that. That's an attitude that, and I have to I'll confess that I don't know that any of my certainly my close peers and my friends amongst the industry at IGN and elsewhere I would call especially jaded. I've certainly seen it places this person they seem kind of jaded, and
it's not very common.
We couldn't really like. I'd look at someone and say, I don't know, I could particularly be friends with that person, or like, I don't think we have a lot. We don't have it in. We don't have enough in common. I think they're a bit over games. But no, I think I love games, man. I love them.
Yeah. In terms of reviews, I always wondered there are two schools. Some people think you have a responsibility to be as objective as possible. Other people think that a review is subjective in nature.
Well, it's the latter, obviously. Like
it's the latter, yeah. So
you need to. There are games are tricky because they kind of straddle this. They straddle this line as a product, right? I'm just speaking from my perspective, and there are certainly probably other people in the press that would agree, and maybe others that wouldn't. But games as a product, for me, they kind of straddle this line between something that's very artistic and very subjective, and something that also has to function. Like an appliance, right? Like a blender or a car. It's like it has to work to a certain degree. And the games that we review, generally speaking, certainly on IGN, they all work mostly, and so that kind of removes a lot of the chaff. Like we don't review this like all this Steam shovelware and like stuff. It's like this is completely broken. So when a game comes along and it's actually broken, that's an anomaly. So once you get over that part, that's the objective stuff. That's stuff that's measurable. Like it has these accessibility features. The graphics are at this resolution. There are certainly things that you can objectively state and qualify. But the rest of it, like you have to. It's a bit like for me for racing games. Well, I got to describe the feel of it. It's like, well, how does this feel? It's like, well, I like it. I like the way it feels. But there are some people, like Project Cars, for instance. I thought
I knew it.
Project Cars 2 came along, and the work they did on the controller feel, I thought it was quite good. And I didn't adjust the settings, but a lot of people came to me and said, I hate the way Project Cars feels on a controller. I'm like, well, I respect that, and we'll just have to.
I moved everything to the opposite direction and got a feel that I thought was really great on Project Cars 2. So then like that takes a few seconds, and then the game is enjoyable. But there's a lot of people are asking in the chat about the reviews, and you and Gaz both make really good points. Like it's a great perspective of reviews, but you kind of can split them in half between an objective portion of the review and subjective. And I think like when I watch your reviews, and I kind of do them the same way, is the first part or the first half of the review can be mostly objective. Like the game offers this many levels, the game has this many things in it, the game does this is what the game does, and this is what it doesn't do. And then, like you said, when you're talking about Forza Horizon, you kind of tread over what they've done in the past and what they've added, which is all pretty much objective reviewing. And then you spend the last half of the review, really, this can be some of the most important points of a review, is getting people to understand how the game makes you feel, whether it gives you joy or frustration or any of those things that erase any of the nitpicks you have. And I think that's really important. And some people say, like in the chat, say reviews are useless. But when you find a reviewer, like, of course I'm going to say, if I find Luke Riley as my car game reviewer, I'm always going to go to Luke and see what he thinks about a game. And it's not because you like someone a lot, it's because their opinion lines up with yours very often. Yeah. And so I think it's totally good. Another thing about Metacritic, which I was going to talk about, but we'll just gloss over it. Metacritic is a review score. It's just one of those things that you put into your little recipe. You make your cake out of a little bit of Metacritic, a lot of a reviewer you trust, and then your friends and what they have to say. And I think you're good to go. So those things have some merit. So somebody also said in the super chat, let me cover this real quick. Psychonauts with a $5 super chat says, Alex Battaglia put out a new video for Digital Foundry with his updated view on the visual improvements of Halo Infinite, and he has a positive review on Halo Now Colt. So I'm going to check that
out. Still critical.
I've
seen it, but still.
I will check it out because I love Alex Battaglia, John Linneman, and Richard Letterman. I've always liked those guys, and they get dragged so hard by the community. They're the nicest guys, and they're doing their job. They're zooming in, they're sticking a diagonal line in Microsoft Paint to count pixels. It's ridiculous the work they do. So,
I don't understand how much
credit.
like. So you've got subjective and objective nature of reviews. What they do is objectively tested. There it is, hard numbers, and they still get raked through the coals, man.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah. This is a great one. My moderator said, I don't know if he's being mean or not, and I had to vet it through. This is a great one. Kate Forever with the $5 super chat says, did Luke say assume instead of assume? I think we Americans are rubbing off on the old accent. They need to get Alana Pierce next with the American accent. Yeah, that's great. Did you work with Alana back in the day?
She was based in the US when she was at IGN.
Oh, she was the whole time? Okay.
Yeah. So she didn't. She wasn't at IGN HQ in Australia.
And US and UK or US and Australia aren't all that close, are they? I'll have to kind of check the old globe.
Geographically?
What are you talking about?
Geographic?
Bro?
Yeah, I'm just
Did
kidding.
you just say that?
I'm like, is it? No, I'm just kidding. It's like a
Emotionally.
14-hour flight from here.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
We're very close. We're like
Lana Pierce and me.
brothers and sisters. Geographically, we are extremely distant.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah, I have a couple good friends on Xbox Live that I got to talk to, and it's always so funny. He's like, "I'm from the future," because it's it's almost 2:00 in the afternoon. We're almost done here. We got Risk It for the Biscuit, fellow Australian, says with the $8 Australian super. He says, Luke, does the fact that you like those types of genres then sway your review towards the positive, or are they able to be objective? How do you be objective, does he ask, when you're doing a racing game review and you love racing games?
That's a really fair question. And then a lot of people could say that it's like, well, he just loves cars and he just loves racing games, so of course he loves this game and he gives it this or that or whatever. My response to that would be, respectfully, would be that I've played hundreds of racing games, and I certainly don't like them all. And so if there's something about a racing game that I feel is weak or I'm not particularly enjoying, I will 100% tell you.
Okay.
Well, the other side of that coin and that argument people always raise is, well, he doesn't even like that genre. Why is he playing that game? It's like,
it is hard to win sometimes, yeah.
It's like
I actually saw that from your competitor, one of your competitor sites that reviewed Gears 4, and he opened up the review and said, I'm not really a Gears fan, but here's my review for Gears 4. I'm like,
Well, no, see, people get triggered by that, and I think there's utility there. There's utility there because
Completely
for someone who isn't a Gears fan, wants to understand it, will read that review and say, okay, so from a non-Gears fan, this is his take, and they might align with mine. So, yeah, I do think there's utility. People get really hung up about it. Remember, it's subjective, right? So people, you want to build a rapport with someone who shares your view on it. There's a myriad of reviewers out there. So you want to find someone you hit those vibes with. So people are like, so I don't get it. It's like, just find a reviewer you like whose views you align with yours. Doesn't mean that they're precluded from sharing their view as a non-Gears fan to review a game like that. It's really bad. Vice did one on Far Cry, and it was a fan of Far Cry, but he said, and he pre-announced us that this is not a review. But I'm sick of the formula. Had a very clickbait title, but they actually justified it in my opinion at the end. And
did they use the word criminally or something like that?
Something like that, something crazy, like it was inhumane or something stupid. But I mean, it was, let's say it was romantically described, just give them benefit of the doubt. But people jumped on their throat. Why would they give a fan who's so tired of the Far Cry games to review the game? But if you read the review, which wasn't a review, I found it really interesting. I'm like you, Luke, but except I fell off at 5. And I played 6. I actually enjoyed it because the characters were enough to keep me intrigued. The gameplay loop was good. But there's this kind of such a closed mindset. It's like, well, accept the view. The review or the piece was so useful to me. I was like, oh, okay. So you I get it now. You played the game and you felt the same way I was afraid I was going to feel. And when I played the game, I did feel the same things, but there was enough there to carry me forward. So yeah, it's like, it's more nuanced than that. I think people are very close-minded and black and white with their approach to things in gaming.
People are really heavy about reviews. Like, there's a lot of weight to them and how people
and the
react.
Score, people are infatuated with the score.
Yeah,
That score 8, and the 8 is. I remember I did a review of The Order 1886. I gave it a 4. Some guy sent death threats to me. Obviously, I found it funny, but most people won't. But because I'm like, yeah, what are you gonna do from your keyboard? Not inviting that, but at the same time, he was just like, all right, you 4, and he sent me a death threat. He goes, 4 is for a broken game. I'm like, wait, hold on. Who made you the arbiter in deciding a 4 is a broken game? When is it, what's a 2? What's a 1? It's all subjective.
What's the
and this is over The Order 1886, for God's sake. I mean, people... But it's the shortcomings of people and the manner in which they think, in my opinion. But, sorry, went off on a tangent there. But
no, that's okay. No. Luke, what's the lowest score you remember giving?
Gosh.
From somebody who doesn't seem to want to have to get into that situation. Because we love games. We never set out to hate a game, right?
Yeah.
So what's been your moment?
I did a review for it's probably the Rambo game that came out maybe 7 or 8 years ago. It was that light gun shooter that wasn't a light gun shooter.
What?
It was a Rambo, the video game. It was made by
Rambo, the video. Okay,
yeah.
that's why I don't remember.
Oh, I thought you said Rainbow.
That's
I remember the Rambo reviews. Oh my gosh. Okay, go ahead.
It was a rail shooter, but it wasn't a light. It didn't have a light gun. It played with a controller or a mouse, I guess. It completely missed the point of the films, and so
it got destroyed.
I gave it a 3. I think.
Did you throw in some embarrassingly bad puns in your review?
Probably.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to do those with Rambo.
Oh, Lucas had some crazy, did he really just make that pun in his review? And I always get a good laugh out of it. It's always good fun. Rambo. Yeah, I remember that. In fact, I wonder if I watched your review and didn't realize that was you. That was probably about 6 years ago or something.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I'm going to have to go back and check that out. Hargit Chani, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. He says, the Game of the Year thing got me talking. Tetris, Pac-Man, and Street Fighter 2 just came out this year. Old games. This is a weird, what if, right? If a game like Tetris or Pac-Man or Street Fighter just came out in 2021 and they didn't have any clones like the originals, would they be considered or even win Game of the Year? Food for thought. Game of the Year isn't very old, is it? I don't think it goes back that far. But
what do you mean?
He's saying Tetris is like a industry-changing game. It came out in 1989, I think. I remember my friend and we had a sleepover and we rented it from the video store. And I thought, why are we getting this dumb game? And we stayed up till 2 a.m. I was like, dun, dun, dun,
I don't think it would make the same impact if it did. And we never had a Tetris game, but it would probably be addictive because Tetris is addictive.
I wonder if he's getting at. I think he might be Hargate might be getting at. It's just a racing game, which we kind of covered earlier in the show.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. ACG, who's a prominent reviewer in the industry that doesn't work for a big site, he just works on his own on YouTube. ACG said, who are we to say any type of genre is not eligible for Game of the Year? So he absolutely thinks that Forza Horizon 5 could be or should be or would be nominated. So. Yeah, I mean that's okay. One last thing before we wrap up. There isn't much to say on it, but Luke, on November 15th, which is in a couple weeks, they're going to celebrate the big 20-year anniversary of Xbox as a gaming brand, and they said there's no big reveals, but what would you expect to see at this event, or what do you think they're going to show to celebrate what they've done over 20 years?
Gee, I don't know. That's a good
Crystal
question.
ball time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is so much to look back at. They've had an incredible run. Such strong hardware, some really incredible and memorable games. I think anything that I guessed, because there are people that still haven't got aboard the ecosystem, and they haven't seen just how because I mean I have Game Pass, and I have like probably my largest current libraries on the Series X that I have here, and the ecosystem is so elegant. I really like it, and I love it. It's a great place to play games on, and I feel like there's still probably a huge component of gamers who have spent this last 20 years sort of playing elsewhere for various reasons, and I know that not everyone can have, not everyone has the ability to be like I'm gonna play games everywhere. I'm gonna get everything that I can at any given moment. You can't do that. But anything that I guess demonstrates the breadth of Xbox's history with great games, and that gets some more people enthusiastic about, maybe I'll try this out, and then they see Game Pass, and they see the pedigree of some of the stuff that's in there, and they experience some stuff that they may have missed or they may love and never would have known. Maybe something like that would be a great thing to I guess put on that day. It's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good point, actually. For the 20th anniversary, we and our team, and one of the most incredibly talented video editors in the world and I'm honored to have him on our team, Kane. We're producing a 20th anniversary montage for the Xbox, and it's a celebration of exactly that. Almost
awesome.
Giving an insight, doing Microsoft's jobs for it. It's not like we get paid by anything. We did it for PlayStation as well, but no one watched that one. But it's really a good opportunity for him to flex his muscles. He's so creative. But it is that, Luke. It's a celebration of showing the games and seeing what's the 20 years have gone by, what's in store for the future. Game Pass is the game changer there. It opens up the barriers for the way people experience gaming, like open their taste buds to experiences that they wouldn't normally experience. So yeah, you're right. So for the 20th anniversary, if they hit that note, the celebration of games, the opening of the floodgates, and making it accessibility is the key. So that was, I think, in the manifesto of our montage. I think Xbox, to your question, Colt, if they would want to hammer that in, because obviously Game Pass has been front and center in their propaganda, so they will most likely want to hit that. But with that also comes legacy. So 20th anniversary, it's a good opportunity for them to tickle our nether regions, tickle our things. I don't know, excitement. Just get us excited is what I want to say by showing off. People say, not Banjo, who gives a damn about that? I mean, I'm talking maybe show off at least Hellblade, show off the future of these first party titles. Maybe Fable's been in the works for 4 years. Maybe show
That's
off
what I wanted
Fable.
to ask. Like, they said no new reveals, but they've
said that? Or
Avowed,
scratch everything I said.
No. They said no new reveals. Like, they're not gonna reveal any new games or any new big news.
So Fable,
but what
Perfect
that
Dark.
brings in is Fable, Avowed, Hellblade,
Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark. Any of those games could make a showing at the 2020. But this is an event about looking back. So I really don't know like where they're going to do this. Like, Luke, do you think that, I mean, historically they would just talk about the old stuff, like celebrate what they've done, or are they going to use all these eyes on them to show what's coming in the future?
I think.
Like, what would you do?
I do the latter as well. I probably would have done the same thing and tempered expectations, and so we're not going to come out and show, like something insane that some kind of thing that you've been speculating about for whatever, like. But
right.
they'd be mad to waste the opportunity not to do that. But I feel like that once the fact that it's on their 20th birthday, there is gonna be a big legacy component to that. And it's a big one. And it's they haven't been around for as long as Nintendo, and they haven't been around for as long as PlayStation. But 20 years is a huge amount of time. It's a lifetime for some people. A lot of people, like for the average age of gamers, the average age of gamers in Australia, I know, is sort of mid-30s, and
we're about the same here. Yeah,
like that's it's basically a lifetime. You know, you from your teen years to now, and from younger kids to now, and they're in their 20s or whatever. Like, it's Xbox has been around, and there's a huge amount of stuff to celebrate.
Yeah, that's nothing for me. I'm super old. Like 20 years is. Oh yeah. No, they do need to show that legacy. I got one more super, and then we're gonna wrap up because it's super late. It's well into tomorrow for Gaz. Kyle Co with the $20 super chat. Thank you so much. He said, I'm a bit disappointed that Microsoft and the Coalition were awfully quiet for the Gears of War 50th anniversary today. 15th. I think it was yesterday or today. They just put out like a tweet, like, celebrating Gears of War, and that was it. But he said, you guys are awesome. You're keeping Xbox fresh and new. Thanks for another great show. So, yeah, thank you so much, you guys. The chat's been amazing. We had well over 700 people here. And I'm here with Luke Riley of IGN Australia. It's just IGN, and he's a expert reviewer of games. I'm so grateful to have you on, Luke. Can you tell people where they can find you? You can do like a little shout out to some of your content. Do a little promotion for yourself, because it's been good having you on.
Oh, well, I appreciate the invite. You can find my stuff. You can just find it on IGN. If it's got a car on the thumbnail, I've probably been involved in some capacity. But there's certainly a bunch of other stuff there that I've been there for 10 years now. So there's probably a whole bunch of stuff you can get on there and check out if you want to hear me go on about racing games. And if you want to, if you want to ask me a question, I sporadically check my Twitter, which is at Mr. Luke Riley on Twitter. Yeah,
I've got it in the description. I've got the link, so you can click it there. And let me see if I can paste that. I probably can. Boy, I've been really good with the mouse today. I'll tell you what. I'll paste it right there. You can follow him on Twitter. And he was nice enough to answer my DM when I asked him to be on the show. So, yes, Gaz. Tell them what you have in the works and where they can find it. But, take a minute, tell them what you have planned. Because people are like, Gaz, please tell me you have something saucy for us in the works.
Yeah. First of all, Luke, it was an absolute pleasure and honor to chat to you, man. You are so down to earth, and it was really good chat.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
And, yeah, likewise. And you smashed it with your review. You got a new fan in me, because I was like... and to be honest... people always associate the big guys. Oh, IGN is this and that. But when I saw your review, I was like, all right, that's how it's done. I actually spoke to my graphic designer. I said, hey, man, I like the way they did that intro. Let's do some things here. But yeah, so shout out to you. Shout out to the team at IGN. We've been reading your stuff. You said 20 years for Xbox. Man, we've been watching IGN and reading that stuff for just as long, if not longer. So yeah, shout out to your team there. For the fans who like the Source, a new Source episode is coming tomorrow. Strong parental advisory, explicit content and language there. So please mindful of that. And we chart the console war. It's a parody series, not a documentary like some of you treat it. Please treat it in the spirit that it's in. Also, please check out GameOnDaily.com, which has sunk tens of thousands to build a news aggregation platform to consolidate all gaming content from IGN, from all platforms in one place. Hopefully one day we have the Magic app also built in, but the websites, they're doing very special things, curating news for you. So you talked about reviews, what reviews people like, don't like. We give you the tools to like that, curate that, inform your communities. So a lot of thoughts going into that. Please check out GameOnDaily.com. And also I want to thank Colt. He's like a brother from another mother. So thank you, Habibi, for letting me come on here. It's been an absolute pleasure. Love your chat. Love your community. And hopefully get to see you on Go Live, our Saturday talk show soon.
Yes,
and also, Luke, if you were happy to accept an invite, you can. There's no language filter as well, so you can swear all you want. Maybe one day if you want to grace us with your presence. But yeah, thank you.
No,
you guys are awesome.
Likewise.
So
I'm gonna They're gonna show off your.
I'm gonna drop this code for the in-game stuff. Let me switch to the live feed so I can see if I'm showing this okay.
Are you giving that away?
So no, I'm giving away a code for in-game content that I would just throw in, but I mean, I'll just. So the controller, when I first saw this, I thought it looks more like Dirt 5 than Horizon, and I wasn't very impressed. But in person, and I think my camera is actually doing it justice. The translucent yellow is a lot more translucent than I thought it was. So you can see the inner workings of the controller. It doesn't scream Forza Horizon Mexico to me, but it is a great controller. And on the back. On the back, they have, it's kind of hard to see here, but they have a holographic H for the Horizon Festival. And someone asked me in the chat about the grips. I'm going to move forward a little bit here. I thought this was so cool. I didn't realize this when I got it until I watched the little promo video. They actually simulated the steering wheel grips of leather on the back. Like the perforated leather look like this, right? Can you see it?
That's
Are you able to see
clever.
it?
That's well clever.
So you have black leather grips, like a steering wheel, which I absolutely think is fabulous. So Xbox sent this to me today. I'm so grateful. I had to put it on the new collection back here, but my moderator is going to drop the code. So it's first come, first serve. You can get your Control-C, Control-V ready. Launch up the Xbox app. It comes with, let me read it here. Actually, it's not on this part. I read it on the website. It comes with a car, an outfit or a clothing item, and an emote. So, but it's still cool because everyone's going to be playing the game tonight. So she's going to drop that in there right now, and we will. We had a great show. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Smash the like button. Smash it.
Yeah, hit the like button. Let's see if we can get up to 500 before we close out. And follow these two on Twitter and check out their new stuff. The code is in. You guys are amazing. It's been a good show. We are going to head out. I'll stay in the chat for a minute. Just say hi, and then we'll call it a night. It's been awesome. Thank you so much for checking out XNC Podcast. It'll be up with timestamps on demand on YouTube, and then it'll go on to your favorite podcast platform for on demand. So have a good night, everybody.
Peace.
Good night, folks. Thank you.
Peace.